Hello, Super Duper Squad. Thank you so much for joining me for another deck tech. And today we have a deck by Spyro, who I will put his links in the description, depending on what I find, Twitter, all that good stuff. So I'll put all his stuff down there. They went from top, I think, like 150 all the way up to top 50 with this deck. This is Loki ongoing, so I will get into some games after I kind of briefly overview the deck here. So we know with Loki, you're always going to have Quinjet. Quinjet is a staple in Loki decks, along with cards like go all the way over here to Agent Coulson. So with Agent Coulson and Quinjet, obviously those are the biggest in terms of um, engine building for the Loki in the end of the game. So Quinjet, obviously, you want to have played on that turn 1, turn 2, but also can be played on turn 3, depending on how your board state is and how the situation is unfolding. But Quinjet, you definitely want to have on the board. If you don't by the late game, you're probably not trying to win with Loki. Snowguard, fantastic card. It's great for shutting off locations that don't allow you to play cards in them, such as if someone plays Storm and they flood the lane. Limbo, that are causing turn 7s. You can end the game on turn 6 with the Hawk. And if you have Quinjet on the field, the Hawk and the Bear end up costing only 2 instead of 3. So it's a fantastic card. It's pretty much also a staple in Loki decks just because it generates 2 cards into your hand. Sabu, we know this card goes in pretty much not every deck, but I'd say a lot of decks, especially the top decks. So in this case, you know, you're reducing the cost of your Shang-Chi, your Miss Marvel, your Omega Red, and your Loki. It's a fantastic card. It has to go in this deck just because you have four cost cards in this deck, and it just helps reduce the cost of those cards, makes them more viable for turn 6 plays. Zabu is a must-have, and it just fits into this deck perfectly. Sentinel, fantastic if you have Quinjet on the field. You play Sentinel, it just constantly gives you that that 3 power that you can consistently play pretty much every turn. Once you play it that first time, say you play Quinjet on turn 1, play Sentinel on turn 2, that Sentinel comes back to your hand, and then on top of that, the Sentinel will only cost 1 from there on out. So it's a fantastic card to put in this deck, and I agree with this from Spyro because this core combination of like Quinjet, Sentinel, Snowguard, all the Agent Coulson, all these cards are just very much in the Loki shell, so he belongs here in this home. Along with that, we've got Cosmo. Cosmo has not been really seen that much lately, but I agree with putting Cosmo in here just because it protects your Miss Marvel, Omega Red, and Devil Dinosaur, and those cards are mainly for you to play on the board when you're probably not planning to play Loki, because those cards are just, especially Devil Dinosaur, that's just like your win con pretty much. So playing Cosmo early and then playing those ongoing cards under Cosmo so that it can't be Enchantressed or rogued is kind of the big idea here. Next, we have Juggernaut. Juggernaut is very underrated. This card can pretty much just win you a lane, especially with Omega Red. You can push cards out of the Omega Red lane if you know that the opponent's probably going to try to stop the Omega Red from winning that from winning that location or lane. You can push it away, and then therefore their plans have kind of been foiled, and it might just mess up with their calculations that they made for the play that they created. So it's a huge card, especially for Omega Red. Hopefully we will get to see us make that play sometime in the games that I show here. Um, Agent Coulson, again, like I said before, is kind of just a staple in Loki decks. It's used to generate those cards. Sometimes those 4 or 5 cost cards can end up being really good and help you win the game without having to play Loki, but it's just kind of like a case-by-case basis on seeing what you actually end up getting. But more than less, you want those extra cards in your hand so you can play Loki later on turn 4 or turn 5. Shang-Chi is just really played, and I think it's the most used card in the game. It has been for a while. I think it's close to a 30% meta share, which is absolutely wild, but it makes sense. We got Call Obsidian coming soon, who is another 10 power card. So there's just a continuation of huge cards that are being played and decks that like to play those huge cards, such as Hela or Thanos and all those other decks. They just want to generate and push out as much power as possible. Shang-Chi just helps you mitigate that power and stop them from just taking over the game. Miss Marvel has been fantastic ever since her season pass. She has been nerfed before, but even that nerf really hasn't changed her too much. She's still really, really fantastic, and most of the time she ends up, being a huge, huge benefit, especially when you can play her in the middle lane. Sometimes you do have to pivot and play her in the left or the right lane, but in most situations, playing her in the middle just ends up being really, really strong. And even so, you can play her at the very end of the game on turn 6, so your opponent doesn't see it coming. But then again, if you have Cosmo down in the middle lane, you can feel safe to put Miss Marvel down in the middle as long as there isn't an echo on the other person's side. Loki, we all know him. We all have hated him. But Loki here is fantastic if you have Zabu and you have Quinjet on the board, causing for a massive cost reduction once you transform your deck, or once you transform your hand into your opponent's deck, into your opponent's cards. It pretty much is a situation. It's another case by case basis thing where you have to think about what deck your opponent's using and think if it makes sense to even go ahead and drop Loki, along with how many cards you have in your hand, if it makes sense to drop Loki. So we'll kind of go over that when we're playing our games and see if it makes sense to drop them when we have that situation come up. Omega Red is fantastic ever since his change, now that you don't have to be winning a lane by 10 power to get the extra power from him. Just have to be winning the lane to get the +3 power to other locations. He is a fantastic card right now, and I think he was extremely underused, and now with the ability change, he's going to be used a lot more. If you haven't given him a try, I'd say try to use this deck to give him a shot. He's fantastic here, and like I said earlier, you really want to kind of put him under Cosmo if you can, so that he can't be he can't be Enchantress or he can't be rogued. And then on top of that, like I said, with the Juggernaut, you can push cards out of this lane that you play him in, so that you're always gonna, so that you kind of know that you're always gonna win the lane. And it just messes up with your opponent's calculations again. And lastly, we have Devil Dinosaur, which is kind of your main win con if you aren't playing Loki. Chances are you're going to be feeding into your hand pretty much the whole game. There's just so many cards in this deck that do that. And then on top of it, you just have Devil Dinosaur that comes out and just ends up being like 15 plus power, 13 plus power, anywhere along there. And he just ends up winning a lane for you. It's a great card to put behind Omega Red as well to maintain. To maintain that extra power in the other lanes. So Devil Dinosaur and Juggernaut are very nice to have alongside your Omega Red. So again, thank you guys for being here, for joining me for another Deck Tech. I hope you guys really enjoy the games. I'm going to try to get some good ones for you, and hopefully we get some fantastic wins. And thanks again to Spyro for this deck. I will put his links in the description below. I will see you in the games. All right. Here we are for game 1. Let's see how it goes. Thank you guys again for staying here and watching this video. I hope you guys get a little bit out of this, and that this helps you make better decisions in your games, and also shows you a pretty interesting deck here. So let's give it a try here. We unfortunately don't have the Zabu or the Quinjet, so that is not ideal, but this might just be a game that we take as a non-Loki victory, so we'll see how it goes. Here, this makes the most sense. Gonna end up moving the Bucky over to the right side. In doing that, then we can play Cosmo over there and they can't get rid of it. We got really lucky that the Polaris was the extra card that we got. They're going to go ahead and get rid of... They're going to go ahead and get rid of... Probably going to try to get rid of that, which we don't need to really worry about. Fantastic. So here we got the Loki, but I don't think it makes sense for us to use the Loki. There's a chance they could be running Shang-Chi. I also doubt it, but there's always a chance that they're running it. But I just think that this is the best case scenario for us at the moment. We could run like Agent Coulson into Zabu, which would be interesting, but we're running that off of basically hoping we get something that we really need. I think we actually do run this just in case we're able to get something better. Okay, Spider-Man, which moves stuff over there. I don't know if that's big enough difference. It's not at the moment. Juggernaut here is kind of bad for us. We don't really want to use that. Jubilee could be good for us, but also kind of a risk. We could just do Omega Red. But if we push a card with Jubilee, it's probably not going to go too well for us. Or, sorry, not with Jubilee, with Juggernaut. I think we just go with this. I don't know if they'll have anything that they'll be able to move over there. There's always a possibility, but I kind of doubt it. Ah, okay. Well, I think we still win. Because unfortunately, it's a tiebreaker, and then they don't win off of that. So that was pretty good for us. I think the Devil Dino ended up being the victory, or the win con, which makes sense. So I'll see you guys in game 2. Hopefully we get a Loki game. Alright, here we are for game 2. Unfortunately, we did have the Quinjet, but getting the peak was not really ideal. I think here we still Quinjet because we have Loki in hand. We can still Loki on the turn 5. Would be really nice if we had Zabu. That's kind of what we're looking for at this point. I think we just play Cosmo into Quinjet just in case they can get rid of the Quinjet. Well, that's good for us. They're probably running some sort of Hella deck, if I had to assume. And we just do this and... or actually probably do this and this. And then we can Loki on the last turn. Okay, now that they're running Sarah, I don't know if they'd be running anything along the lines of what I was thinking of originally. So I'm not really sure exactly what they're running. It might just be like a Black Knight deck. It might be the Black Knight Sarah deck with Hella also, but we'll have to see here. I think with having the Quinjet and the Zabu on the board, we just kind of have to go for the Loki and see what it ends up providing us. Okay, they've got the Miss Marvel. Okay. The unfortunate thing is the blade we can't really do too much with. Or actually we can. This could be really good for us. Hang on. So if we do this... I don't know if that wins the lane. I think it does. Maybe it doesn't. We would be moving the Sif. Because we can blade the Magneto and then Ghost Rider, which is probably the ideal play here. We don't want to use Black Knight just because we don't want to get rid of too much of the Devil Dinosaur. I think we might be okay here. And they retreat, which makes sense. They're probably scared enough that we Loki'd and that we have a lot of their cards, even though I don't know if it was the best situation for us, but it kind of worked out. So I'll see you guys for game 3. So hopefully we get an actual interesting game. I'll make sure it's one that plays out pretty well. Here we are for game number 3. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the games. I know they haven't been the most exciting, but they have kind of given a little bit of insight on when to snap, when not to snap, and where you kind of want to be with this deck. Nice, we got Quinjet now on turn 1, which is the first time we've had that, I believe. Hopefully we can get Zabu here on the next draw. If we can get Zabu, that would be ideal, right? Okay, well, we had Zabu coming up anyways. This also like filled our hand, so this is kind of really just ideal for us at this point. We snap because this is just a fantastic hand for us. The drawing the extra 2 cards is really, really key. I'm assuming they're playing some sort of Hella deck since they haven't been playing anything. Okay. Here I think Miss Marvel just makes the most sense. Okay, they've got Giganto. I think they obviously play the Ebony Blade into that other lane. So here we just go ahead and... I don't know if we play Snow Guard or not, because if we play Snow Guard then it fills our hand, we can't draw into another card. I think we just Juggernaut here, which is fine. They're gonna snap, which isn't shocking at all. They probably have Hella in their hand now. Okay. Now I think we just go here. Hopefully they play the Hella in the Nexus, which is what I'm thinking they might end up doing. There's Jubilee. They'll probably pull something big out here. There's the Infinite. We do have Shang-Chi, so we can do that. That's probably what we want to do at this point. They might have Hella, but I think we should be okay here. Them losing the 20 power Infinite is going to be pretty gigantic. They also might have Shang-Chi, but I don't think that deck runs it. I've run that Hella deck plenty of times, and it definitely doesn't have Shang-Chi in it. So I think this is our best play. That's definitely gotta be Hella, I would have to assume. Okay, they just Magneto and they lose. So, yeah, they didn't pull the Hella, and that was a fantastic game. We just shoved everything into that side. That just really goes to show the Juggernaut that is fantastic. It's super underrated. Had we actually not had the Juggernaut there to push over the Ebony Blade, we actually would have lost that game. So Juggernaut pretty much won us the game. So it's a big 8-cube game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, I always say this and preface this, but I am on ladder. I am playing ranked in Infinite, in top 5K matches. So these are real matches, real things happening against real human people playing the game. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks again, like I said, to Spyro for the deck. It's a fantastic one. Make sure to check out his links in the description below. I appreciate you guys all for watching this video, and I'll see you on Wednesday when I come out with another one. See you later, Super Duper Squad.